Ladies and gentlemen, could we have a round of applause as I invite on stage Arunjot Singh Bhalla of RSP Design.
Good afternoon, everyone. Such an absolute pleasure to be standing here in this marvelous setting. I think the organizers have really put up a great setting to kickstart this particular session. I have drawn the lot to speak first. And this particular topic is something that has been as part of our thinking for some time. Where do we stop building and start belonging? I lead a design practice that has a huge corporate portfolio, and many of the clients are global corporates. The basic idea of a global corporate many times is to import into India the design idiom they have in their own respective countries, which actually is reflective of their own culture. This is particularly so when you look at IT campuses, where there is a uniformity of architectural expression as a deep desire that these clients have in bringing a similarity to the architectural language wherever they might be on the planet. So our challenge as we sit in India and as we do this work is how can we go and bring in the cultural aspects of India? How can we bring in locale and context in a meaningful manner? We do not succeed every time, but we try hard as hell. And today I'm here to present a few of those works where I think we could make some meaningful contribution towards this aspect of belonging. So I start off with a slide where, as you can see, over the last 2 decades, this is about 20 years, 25 years of work, we have been looking at these two aspects, global and local. The global aspect is, as you can see, there is an acceleration. Everyone wants it yesterday. Everyone wants it faster. The local aspect typically takes you to thinking about how we can slow things down, how can it be more meaningful. Global aspects in our architecture is technology backbone is all pervasive, very important. The local aspects start looking at some introspection and deeper thinking. The global takes us to futuristic aesthetic directions, which sometimes can seem weird in the context that we are building in. Leads to loss of sense of place and context and loss of an identity. Whereas if we were to bring in the traditional aspects in a meaningful manner, the criticism comes up saying it's sentimental, it's romantic, you're harking back too much to the past. India as a nation is going forward. So how can we bring this balance is what we look at, but very importantly, what does the end user want? So we as architects are here as a conduit to take what a master corporate or a clientele might say, but at the other end is the end user, and the end user is typically somebody who happens to be Indian in India. So this is something that we have tried to balance. I'll show you a few projects. The first is a campus in Pune called Hexaware. And as you can see from the date 2018, and it's a campus that has been in evolution, has been developing. I'm showing you some pictures of phase 1. So when we looked at this particular campus, the client was an IT major amongst the top 10, but the client had one aspect that they were quite clear about. They were okay with the use of materials that were not all glass, which was a big grace for us because many times we will end up with clientele which will say, absolutely nothing doing. We want total glass buildings, shiny buildings. This client was not like that. So the volumetric play that you see, the arrival courts that you see, a lot of sandstone has been used. It's also climate sensitive. And it is of the terrain. The color of the sandstone and so on and so forth comes from what the colors in and around the site are all about. There are spaces, which I call the in-between spaces, spaces of transition where one spills out from spaces of work to spaces which are internal courtyards, which make the arrival experience, the transition through the buildings very meaningful, which I think is very important for our culture. The courtyard is culturally, from an Indian standpoint, embedded in the collective psyche. Many of us have grown up in houses which had courtyards, have lived in buildings which had courtyards. We visit hotels which have courtyards. Bringing these spaces back into our office work is something that we also strongly believe in. Aspects like this, wherein a connecting bridge can lead to a larger space which has a conference room which overlooks two spaces, the reinterpretation of a jali, as you can see on that wall. These walls are facing the western side, so cutting off the glare of the sun becomes important. So these are the quotes that I believe that then can invigorate a project quite meaningfully. And then the use of frames to hold space together, use of reflections, light, play of light and shadow, all very important as far as this campus is concerned, and I think was very successful. In fact, I must say when it got inaugurated, it was literally a hero's welcome that we got as an architect, which is very rare sometimes, but the end user completely loves this campus. I take you to another particular project. We got commissioned about a couple of years back to participate in a limited competition to design for a corporate, a particular project in Noida. And we made 2 entries. I'm showing you the entry that was not successful. The successful entry is being built. But it did get voted as the unbuilt project of the year a few years back. And you'll see in a minute why. So first of all, if you think of a campus, particularly in the region of the NCR or any other place, that particular campus is something that will have straight lines. It'll have no fragmentation. But here I'm presenting to you a plan which kind of goes against the grain of all of that. It looks at fragmentation. It takes its entire geometry. It takes its entire inspiration from old settlements. It meets all the requirements of what an office space should be, but tries to bring to the table some aspects which are extremely important, which means the spaces in between buildings, the spaces where people can meet informally, spaces that are conduit for serendipitous interactions. It brings all of that to the table. It also explores pattern making on the floors. It explores bringing amphitheaters that lead to basements. And it also can manage to get all the workstations and efficiencies inside a particular project. So this project then looks like this. It has towers which are there for carbon sequestering. It brings in the red sandstone of Delhi, which is very much integral to the sandstone being an integral part of the building materials in that region. And still, it's very modern. It brings the right kind of shading onto the glass and develops these streets inside. So as you can see, the streets are something which have the restaurants and food courts and amenity spaces coming into these spaces. It's like a street as a spillover. It's not only a space where one has to just move through to go from point A to point B, but it is a place where you can have celebrations as well. Brings in sculptures, brings in art, and very importantly, brings in rooftops. Many buildings just do not celebrate rooftops enough. A project like this brings in aspects on so that you can go onto the rooftops. And the inspiration that I had for this was kite flying that happens in the old cities in India. So the rooftop is something that normally gets missed out, but it's a dimension that can be utilized very well. So that's a project for you to see. The same client had commissioned us in a very weird way. They wanted to do an office interior, but based on Taj Mahal. So I flew into Delhi and sat with them to explain to them that really that doesn't make any sense, that we should go and do projects with a Taj Mahal stuck inside of office building. Doesn't make sense, but they were very insistent. Sometimes clients are right, because I mentioned the word end user. What the end user experience is also equally important. This project won a number of awards in the interior side. It's an interior design project. The inspiration or the starting point from the client's brief was to interpret the Taj Mahal inside an office interior, and I'll show you some pictures of that. We look at the meandering aspects, that is, of circulation in and around as River Yamuna, and the other aspects take inspiration from the Charbagh and other aspects that make the Taj Mahal such a distinctive monument. But I thought this is going to be very cliched. I still bring it to the table because sometimes the brief can be like that, and then you have to work with it. And that's what we created inside an office building. It also got voted as the best office interior. The client, incidentally, is Microsoft. So Microsoft Corporation's best office interiors for that year in their entire global portfolio was this project. SAP Labs Innovation Campus or Innovation Park is a recent project for us where we are exploring the possibilities of Indian jalis and local materials applied to a campus setting. Phase 1 is completed, so this is recently launched or inaugurated. Again, that idea of having transition spaces, arcades come into campus settings leading to landscape courts, so on and so forth is very successful here. One of the highest sustainability indices on this building as well. From here, I want to take you to a unique project which is in Mangad for the Jai Kripalu Maharaj Foundation, an experience center. This project is an experience center near a temple. And here the client was wanting an aesthetic that is futuristic, but an aesthetic that brings in all the values which a Hindu temple from a spiritual aspect should show. Amazingly, the client is forward-looking and wants a building that is modern, not the usual shikhara, not the usual carving, so on and so forth. So this is what is now happening there. It's getting completed. The shapes that you see there are inspired by petals, rose petals. So that's the main motive here. So the petals as they spread around. And the Namaste building in the front is a meditation center where you will rise, as you rise in meditative aspects, you rise higher and higher. You're not allowed to the topmost level till you reach a certain level of meditation. But those aspects aside, I think it's marvelous at what you can still do with concrete. So you have skylights on the top because the idea is to filter in light into the campus in such a fashion or into the experience center so that the whole area inside is suffused with natural light. The lighting can, just imagine where we are sitting. If these lights were not on and then there were some apertures in the roof, then this would happen. So it'll bring in aspects of pattern making interpreted in a certain fashion back inside, and it would bring in emotion. So when we say, how do we belong? How do we make architecture which belongs? So belonging is of many parts. Once belonging is of the context of the place, but belonging also comes from the emotion it evokes. And if the emotion is positive, and if the emotion puts into your mind something that is, if you're trying to show something spiritual, and if the building inside lets you believe or makes you believe that you're in a spiritual space, it then need not be a shikhara or a dome or something that we are very familiar with. While we make all these architectural interpretations in the current manner, in the traditional manner, we also have to be cognizant of all the technology available to us and the aspirations that we have as individuals, global citizens that Indians are, of what we want out of that space. That can also be achieved without ornament, and that's what I'm trying to demonstrate here. I showed you a modern campus or office space for one of the most cutting-edge corporates, which is Microsoft Corporation, which wanted Taj Mahal inside their office spaces. And I'm now showing you a counterpoint where a traditional client, like the JKP Foundation, wants a modern space inside their experience center. Both are valid. And we as architects have a duty to be able to understand and try and do best within that brief and challenge the client where we can, and then create the spaces that we create. As far as our work is concerned, this is the last line that I want to finish with. We embrace the future. We do not reject the past. In some of our projects, historic aspects are literally interpreted, which I showed you in the Taj Mahal interpretation. And in others, we strive for a continuum linking traditions with the present and the future. That's what we stand for, and that's what we believe, I personally believe, is the way to go forward with. So from few of these projects, not all our projects do all this, I think I could possibly explain some sense of belonging that we are trying to bring in our work. Thank you so much.